Hey everyone, welcome back to another lesson. So in this one, we're going to do our final practice with the Turtle Graphics package. And, we're going to explore another very interesting topic. So in the previous lesson, we made the random walk and we made it, more colorful using the random colors and everything. So now what I want to do is I want to create something more interesting. So this is called a histogram. And, I'm sure you've seen something like this when you were a kid or something like that. You would draw these things, and there's actually a very interesting way to create this for Turtle Graphics, and that's what we're going to explore today. All right. Now, by the way, I've been playing with the random walk a little bit, and I made it a little bit more random. As you see, like it's just like instead of going in circles, going in like specific like square angles, now it goes like all over the place. And what I did was I created this random direction function, which is going to generate a random direction for it. So anyways, I just wanted to share that. But let's go ahead and create this. This is again a very interesting one, and you got to use a few different methods of this module in order to achieve this. All right, so let's go ahead and clean this up. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these different things we created, like the function and everything. We're going to get rid of the while loop. We don't need that. We're just going to keep the speed, obviously, because we're going to use that. But anyways, so with that being said, let's actually think about how we can do this. I have the documentation open, and the first thing we got to do is we actually need to create a circle. So if you actually look for a circle, you can find it. So there you go. So you can easily create a circle. It's very simple. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. So I see, you can create a circle and you can tell it exactly the radius of it and all that. So let's go ahead and create a circle. I'm just going to say Tim circle, and we're just going to put 100 in here. All right, let's see how it actually looks. Let's just run it real quick. There you go. So we created one circle. All right, so obviously that's not enough because what we need to do is we need to obviously create like multiple circles. So let's add one more thing. The next thing I want to add is the color, right? So let's add the random color. So again, this is something we've done before. Tim color, we got the random color. So I'm just going to call the random color module and or random color function here. So just like that, we have a random color. So now each time I run this, we should get a different color. There you go. See, so we got that going on. Now let's go ahead and actually figure out how we can have this go in like in a circle. Okay, so one of the things that we can do is we can look at a method called set heading. So let's actually search for heading here, and there are a few different things. For example, the first heading that you see is the heading of the turtle itself, like the current heading. So this is something that basically the angle of anything that it draws like before it starts, right? So if I actually print this right now, let's just print turtle Tim heading. Okay, so if I print this, let's see what we get. We're gonna get that. Let's see, we get a 0. That means that it basically starts from a 0. Let me just pull this up a little bit. There you go. So I see we get a 0. That means that it starts from 0. That makes sense, right? So what we need to do is we need to actually change this each time this program runs. So let's actually find another thing. The next thing we want to look into is a heading state, or like set heading. All right, so set heading is another method which is going to allow us, again, we use this, if you remember in the previous challenge, we use this to move, like set the heading for it to move around basically. So we can use this as well to kind of set the heading. All right, so if I want to create something like that, one of the things I can do is I can say set heading, or you can say Tim set heading, and we can move it to, for example, a new direction or something like that. Again, each time it runs, right? So if I actually let's say put it on top of it here, so for example before it runs, I see that it's going to be tilted a little bit. If I put, for example, 30, and if you run this again, it's going to be tilted, as you see. So we can tilt this. Now let's actually make sure it repeats, right? So one of the things I need to do for this is that I need to make sure that obviously we need to put this in a loop. All right, so that's what I want to do. I want to put this in a loop, but okay, we need to put this, let's actually put it in a loop. We're just going to put it in a loop and see. Okay, in range, let's say we wanted to repeat 30 times. All right, so let's just make sure we put that in a loop right there. And if I actually indent it and if I run this, take a look. So it's going to repeat. Obviously, it's not going to move. So let's make sure that each time we actually set the heading to a different direction. For example, Tim sets heading. We're just going to put it at 10 maybe. So each time that it runs, it's going to move. There you go. 10. Perfect. So again, we're getting there, but we're not 100% there, right? So what I need is I need to create a random heading, okay, each time, or make sure that it adds new heading, right? So one of the things I can do here is that I can say, we can put this in a, we can do the set heading and get the current heading and add, something to it. For example, Tim set heading, so we get the heading of the Tim itself, and then we add maybe 10. All right, so let's do that. And as you see now, we're actually drawing something. So that looks good. And it's going to, again, repeating it like an X amount of time, which is like 30. So it's getting there, But again, the problem is that first of all, the heading is not enough. Like, it's just like the gap is not like, the way we saw, like the example I showed you. So we can add maybe more. We can maybe 50. All right. That's something, right? So that's something, but here's a problem. Let's say if I put this like 100, but problem is that, again, this is not gonna stop. It's gonna go back and it's gonna repeat the same thing over and over. And again, obviously that's not ideal, right? So one of the things we wanna do is we wanna make sure that it fills a whole 360 degree and then it stops. And the way to do this is that we can use one of the things that we did before, which was, using a 360 degree. For example, if you remember, we in the previous lesson we used we divided like 360 by, in one of the previous lessons we divided 360 by the number of angles, and we got like a certain number, and we got a certain random number. So this is something we can do as well. So one of the things I can do is that I can say for this particular one, I can say, for example, 300, let's put this, there you go, 360 divided by, for example, 10 or something. So again, this would be like the, maybe let's actually do the size of the gap. So I'm just going to say size of the gap. All right, so let's put this right here. And there you go. So now one of the things that's going to happen, let's just call this gap. What am I doing this? All right. So what is going to happen is that, when this runs, we're going to, for example, get maybe a number. Let's actually give it a number. For example, we can call this gap equals 10 or something like that. All right. So now each time that this runs, we're going to get a full circle. Take a look. Oh, actually, I know why this doesn't work. Let's actually make it 90. Oh, let's make it 90. All right, so one of the things that is happening right now, if you take a look at it, is that we're generating a float number. See? So we're generating a floating number, and that's obviously not going to work, because for the range, in order for the range, keyword to work, we need to create a we need to create an integer, because again, you can't tell it to run something 2.5 times, right? And in Python, whenever you divide something, you're going to get the like a floating number, not a integer, right? So in order to fix this, we need to actually create an integer. We need to turn this into an integer. So we're just going to do that. All right. So there you go. So we're just going to turn this into an integer. And just like that, this should fix the problem. There you go. So now we are getting somewhere, right? So there you go. So we fixed that problem. The next step, okay, is to actually turn this into a, let's say, Let's actually turn the gap to 1. And this is going to pretty much run 360 times. Take a look. See? So one thing I want to do is, obviously this is way too slow, okay? One thing I want to do is I want to not do it using this. I want to create a function where we can actually tell it how many times we want this to turn, right? So in order to do this, we're going to create we're going to define a new function. I'm going to call this draw graph. All right. So now what is going to happen, and we're going to actually have a value inside. I'm going to say size, or we're going to say gap. All right, just like that. Now let's go ahead and actually put all of this inside. There you go. Let's just messed it up. There you go. All right. So now what we need to do basically is to just run this function. We're just gonna say, you know, we're gonna run a function. We're gonna call this. We're gonna say draw graph, and I'm gonna say, for example, 5. All right. So just like that, what is going to happen is that we're gonna call this function, and this function is gonna run this for loop and go divide the number that we gave it to 360, and it's gonna just draw this circle, you know, that many times, whatever this result of this is going to be, and it's going to stop at the end. And again, like, because we have the gap here, it's going to exactly stop, and it's not going to overdo it, or it's not going to run multiple times. Take a look. If I run this, now we're just getting this perfectly fine circle, and it's just at the end it stops. So guys, I hope this made sense to you guys, and I hope you learned something. Again, like, you know, you can do a lot of interesting stuff, and this is what we did with the set heading. You know, we turned it a little bit each time, you know, the circle like finishes drawing, basically. And that is basically the idea behind this. All right, so let me know if you have any questions, guys. If not, I'll see you in the next lesson, where we're going to actually talk about our final project, which is very, very exciting.